Joining me now is Texas House Democratic Minority Leader Jean Wu and California Democratic Assemblyman Rick Chavez Zbur. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. I know you have both had very busy weeks. Let me start with you, Leader Wu. Let me start by asking you what this all means for the fight back in your state. You and your colleagues fled the state. You successfully stopped a special session. Governor Abbott said he would call another one to get redistricting done. Will you and your colleagues leave the state again if that happens, or is this fight now in the hands of Governor Newsom and the people of California? How do you see it?
So when we left, we had just simply two objectives. One was to end this corrupt session and to give Texans a chance to actually have their say in all this. And the second thing was to finally engage other states, engage other Democrats, and just simply other people who are willing to stand up for this country and willing to stand up for American democracy. With California coming on board, we're ready to pass the baton to someone else. And we're hoping that it gets passed to someone else in a little while. We need to keep this going. It cannot fall solely on Texas. It cannot fall solely on Texas House Democrats. Other people, other Democrats, other Americans need to step up and come help save their own country.
I hear that, and you have been fighting like hell for the last several weeks, but nothing, as you know, is guaranteed in California. Yep. I mean, this is going up for a vote in November, and this effort is being undertaken by Republicans in other states across the country. So doesn't it make sense to keep fighting and try to keep people out of the state as long as humanly possible into the fall?
That is definitely one way to look at it. But I think a smarter course of action is for us to listen to our counsel and listen to our legal counsel. And when they tell us there is a good way and there is a good time to, if they're going to pass a map, have them pass a map within a certain amount of time in a certain frame, so that the courts can stop it. Don't forget that the current maps that the Texas is built on is already one of the worst racially gerrymandered maps in the United States. And these 5 seats are trying to get on top of that. You have to have super turbocharged discrimination and racism. And we feel pretty good about our chances in court. And if we're to get the court to enjoin it, if we're to get the court to rule in our favor, it has to be done in a certain time frame.
That's interesting, and that's interesting and helpful to understand about the court time frame. Let me bring Assemblyman Zbur into this conversation. I mean, Governor Newsom, we've been playing clips throughout the show, is essentially asking voters in your state to temporarily overturn the independent redistricting commission that they voted for in a previous election. I mean, the argument for doing it is very compelling. I very much believe that. I know most people do. But do voters in your district agree, or are you going to have to really be out there working to sell them on this?
Well, I think we're going to have to educate voters. But in California, it's sort of like the boiling frog metaphor. Many people haven't woken up to the danger that we're facing because of the dictator tendencies of this administration. But in California, we've seen what this administration is doing. We have goons picking people off the streets and disappearing them. We have the military deployed in our cities. We have our universities being punished with cuts in funding. So Californians know the autocratic tendencies and that we're in a very, very threatening time, and we need to fight fire with fire. We can't stand back and do nothing. The big bad bill cut, millions of dollars in health care. It's cut billions in public education funding, so this is about. This isn't, we're talking about redistricting, but it's not really about redistricting. Mm-hmm. It's about really protecting our democracy and protecting the values that the people in California, and I would argue the American values that we all hold dear. And that's what we're fighting for. I think Democrats in California are united behind our governor and our leadership in the two houses of the Assembly and the Senate, and are prepared to move forward and fight.
It's a really good point. I mean, your representation, it determines what voters get. That's what people vote for. It's not just the person representing them. It's about the things they vote for. Let me ask you, Leader, well, you alluded to this already, about passing the baton. There are other blue states where they could undertake efforts. It shouldn't be on just California either. What is your message to voters in those states and leaders in those states about the importance of looking at what is possible with their voters, with their legislatures in short order here, because it needs to happen in short order in order to address it before the next midterm election?
I think just pointing at California, saying like this is a brilliant way to handle it, because California, I mean, we can all agree mid-cycle redistricting is wrong. That it should be unconstitutional, it should be illegal. But if we have to do it, we need to do it. But what California is going to do is brilliant. It says we're going to have a trigger, and it says our maps only go into place if Texas does what we think is wrong. And if they don't do what's wrong, then nothing happens. That's brilliant because it sets it up so that Texas has no reason to act. If Texas acts, then California simply nullifies it. And so there's no reason for them to act. So, and even if Texas does act, it'll so hurt the communities here, but it'll at least at minimum protect the country.
Yeah, I mean, there are other Republican governors who might act, too. So it's going to continue to be an offset situation, which is a bit alarming for everyone. Let me ask you, Assemblyman, there are theoretical maps floating around out there that could give Democrats as many as 9 new seats in California. I mean, Governor Newsom has signaled some interest in those plans on social media. But how far are California Democrats collectively, in your view, willing to go with this if voters give them this power? Like, how many seats are we talking about?
So, I mean, we're trying to make sure that we achieve at least 5 seats to offset the loss of seats in Texas and potentially make some of our frontline seats more competitive for the Democrats. But, you know, we're doing this in a different way. Unlike in Texas, where they already have gerrymandered districts, in California, our districts were formed by an independent citizens redistricting commission and were bipartisan, and the bipartisan members of that commission voted, all of them, for these seats. And when I was, prior to my time here, I ran Equality California, which was a civil rights organization, and we argued for these fair seats. What we're doing now, though, is still very different than what they're doing in Texas, because the seats that we're creating all comply with the Voting Rights Act. They all uplift communities to make sure that that the Black community, that the Latino community, the API community, other communities of interest are represented. So we pick up seats, but at the same time make sure that all the communities in California are represented and achieve fair representation in Congress. And that's the difference between even what California is doing and what's happening in Texas. In Texas, they're taking gerrymandered seats already and making them worse by failing to comply with the Voting Rights Act and really cutting out districts that are represented by folks from underrepresented communities.
Texas House Democratic Minority Leader Jean Wu, I know you've had quite a few weeks. Thank you so much for being here. And California Democratic Assemblyman Rick Zbur, thank you both for so much for joining me.